Learn English through stories B20 PDF. Adapted and modified by Kulwant Singh Sandhu. Contents 1. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Chapters 1 and 2. 2. Sentences 1. 3. Picture Dictionary. Chapter 1. Tom and his friends. Tom, where are you? No answer. Where is that boy? When I find him, I'm going to. Aunt Polly looked under the bed. Then she opened the door and looked out into the garden. Tom. She heard something behind her. A small boy ran past, but Aunt Polly put out her hand and stopped him. Ah, there you are. And what's that in your pocket? Nothing, Aunt Polly. Aunt Polly put out her hand and stopped him. Nothing? It's an apple. I can see it. Now listen, Tom. Those apples are not for you and I. Oh, Aunt Polly. Quick. Look behind you. So Aunt Polly looked, and Tom was out of the house in a second. She laughed quietly. I never learn. I love that Tom, my dead sister's child. But he isn't an easy boy for an old lady. Well, it's Saturday tomorrow, and there's no school. But it isn't going to be a holiday for Tom. Oh no, he's going to work tomorrow. Saturday was a beautiful day. It was summer, and the sun was hot, and there were flowers in all the gardens. It was a day for everybody to be happy. Tom was the unhappiest boy in the village. Tom came out of his house with a brush and a big pot of white paint in his hand. He looked at the fence. It was 3 meters high and 30 meters long. He put his brush in the paint and painted some of the fence. He did it again. Then he stopped and looked at the fence, put down his brush and sat down. There were hours of work in front of him, and he was the unhappiest boy in the village. After 10 minutes, Tom had an idea, a wonderful idea. He took up the brush again and began work. He saw his friend Joe Harper in the street, but he didn't look at him. Joe had an apple in his hand. He came up to Tom and looked at the fence. I am sorry, Tom. Tom said nothing. The paintbrush moved up and down. Working for your aunt, said Joe. I'm going down to the river. I'm sorry you can't come with me. Tom put down his brush. You call this work? He said. Painting a fence? Said Joe. Of course it's work. Perhaps it is, and perhaps it isn't. But I like it, said Tom. I can go to the river any day. I can't paint a fence very often. Joe watched Tom for about 5 minutes. Tom painted very slowly and carefully. He often stopped, moved back from the fence, and looked at his work with a smile. Joe began to get very interested and said, Tom, can I paint a little? Tom thought for a second. I'm sorry, Joe. You see, my aunt wants me to do it because I'm good at painting. My brother Sid wanted to paint too, but she said no. Oh, please, Tom, just a little. I'm good at painting too, eh? Do you want some of my apple? No, Joe, I can't. Okay, you can have all my apple. Tom gave Joe the brush. He did not smile, but for the first time that day, he was a very happy boy. He sat down and ate Joe's apple. Tom was the richest boy in St. Petersburg. More friends came to laugh at Tom, but soon they all wanted to paint too. By the afternoon, Tom had 3 balls, an old knife and a cat with one eye, an old blue bottle, and a lot of other exciting things. He was the richest boy in St. Petersburg, and the fence, all 30 meters of it, was a beautiful white. He went back to the house. Aunt Polly, can I go and play now? Aunt Polly came out of the house to look. When she saw the beautiful white fence, she was very pleased. She took Tom into the house and gave him an apple. Well, you can go and play, but don't come home late. Tom quickly took a second apple and ran off. On Monday morning, Tom didn't want to go to school, but Aunt Polly got him out of bed and then out of the house. In the street near the school, he met his friend Huckleberry Finn. Huck had no mother, and his father drank whiskey all the time, so Huck lived in the streets. He didn't go to school, he was always dirty, and he never had a new shirt. But he was happy. The mothers of St. Petersburg didn't like Huck, but Tom and his friends did. "Hello, Huck," said Tom. "What have you got there?" "A dead cat." "What are you going to do with it?" asked Tom. "I'm going to take it to the graveyard tonight," Huck said. "At midnight, a dead cat can call ghosts out of their graves." "I never heard that," said Tom. "Is it true?" "Well, I don't know," said Huck. "Old Mrs. Hopkins told me, come with me and see, or are you afraid of ghosts?" "Of course not," said Tom. "Come and meow for me at my window at 11 o'clock. After this, Tom was late for school, and the teacher looked at him angrily. "Thomas Sawyer, why are you late again?" he said. Tom began to speak and then stopped. There was a new girl in the schoolroom. A beautiful girl with blue eyes and long yellow hair. Tom looked and looked. Oh, how beautiful she was. And in 2 seconds Tom was in love. He must sit next to her. But how? In the girls' half of the room there was only one empty chair, and it was next to the new girl. Tom thought quickly, and then looked at the teacher. "I stopped to talk with Huckleberry 10, he said. The teacher was very, very angry. Boys were often late for school. That was bad, but talking with Huckleberry Finn was worse, much worse. The teacher took his stick, and 2 minutes later Tom's trousers were very hot, and the teacher's arm was very tired. "Now, Tom Sawyer, you go and sit with the girls." Some of the children laughed. Tom walked to the chair next to the new girl, sat down and opened his book. The other children began to work again. After 10 minutes, the girl looked up. There was an apple on the table in front of her. She put it back on Tom's half of the table. A minute later, the apple was in front of her again. Now it stayed. Next, Tom drew a picture of a house and put it in front of her. "That's nice," the girl said. "Now draw a man." Tom drew a man next to the house. The man was taller than the house, and he had very big hands and very long legs. But the girl liked him. "Can you draw me now?" she asked. Tom drew a girl next to the man. "You draw beautifully. I can't draw pictures." "I can teach you," said Tom. "After school." "Oh, please." "What's your name?" Tom asked. Becky Thatcher." Just then Tom felt a hand on his head. It was the teacher. He took Tom by the ear and moved him back to his chair in the boys' half of the room. "You draw beautifully," said the girl. Chapter 2. In the graveyard. That night, Tom went to bed at 9:30. He waited for Huck's meow, and at 11 o'clock it came. He climbed quietly out of the bedroom window, and then he and Huck walked out of the village with the dead cat. The graveyard was on a hill, about a mile from St. Petersburg. When the boys got there, they put the dead cat on a grave and sat down behind some trees. They watched and waited. It was very dark and very quiet. "Do you see that new grave there?" whispered Huck. "That's Hoss Williams' grave. He died last week." "Perhaps he can hear us," Tom whispered back. "Do you think he can, huh?" "I don't know, but Sh. "Oh, Tom, what is it?" "Sh," whispered Tom. "I can see something. Look." Huck moved nearer to Tom. "Ghosts," he said. "3 of them. They're coming here, Tom. Oh, let's go home." "It can't see us," Tom whispered. "Not here." "Ghosts can see through trees," said Huck unhappily. "They can see through everything." They're not ghosts. The ghosts moved quietly through the graveyard and came nearer to the trees. Huck and Tom watched, very afraid. Then, after a minute, Huck said, "Tom, they're not ghosts. That's Muff Potter." "So it is, and that's Injun Joe, and the other man is Dr. Robinson. What are they doing here?" "They're grave robbers, Tom. They're going to rob a grave. My father told me about it. The doctor wants a dead body, you see. He cuts it up because he wants to learn about." "SH," said Tom. "They're getting near." The three men stopped at Hoss Williams' grave, and Injun Joe and Muff Potter began to dig. 10 minutes later, the grave was open. "Now, doctor," said Muff Potter, "you want us to take the body to your house? That's $5 more." "No," said the doctor. "I gave you the money this morning. I'm not giving you any more." "Now you listen to me, doctor," said Injun Joe. "I want that money. Do you remember a day 5 years ago? I came to your house and asked for something to eat. And you gave me nothing." "Nothing? So give me that money." He took the doctor's arm, but suddenly the doctor hit him, and Injun Joe fell to the ground. "Don't hit my friend," cried Muff Potter. He jumped on the doctor, and the two men began to fight. It all happened very quickly, and the two boys watched with open mouths. Injun Joe got up. He had Muff Potter's knife in his hand now, and he moved behind the doctor. Then the doctor hit Muff Potter on the head. Muff fell to the ground, and at the same moment the knife in Injun Joe's hand went into the doctor's back. The doctor fell to the ground on top of Muff Potter, and he did not move again. Injun Joe moved behind the doctor. The two boys could watch no more. Very quietly, they moved away from the trees, and then ran out of the graveyard and back to the village. Injun Joe stood by Hoss Williams' grave and looked down at the two men. Then he put the knife into Muff Potter's hand and sat down. 3, 4, 5 minutes went by. Potter moved a little and opened his eyes. "What happened, Joe?" he asked. "This is bad, Muff," said Joe. "Why did you kill him?" Muff looked at the doctor's dead body, then at the knife in his hand. "Me, did I kill him?" His face went white, and the knife fell from his hand. "It's the whiskey, Joe. I never fight with knives usually. Oh, why did I drink all that whiskey tonight? I don't remember anything." "It's okay, Muff," said Joe. "I'm not going to tell anyone. You get away quickly. Go on. Go now." Muff Potter got up and ran away. Joe watched him for a minute. Then he carefully put the knife next to the doctor's body. Then he too left the graveyard. The next day, the sheriff's men found the doctor's body in the graveyard and Muff Potter's knife. That night, Muff came to the graveyard to get his knife. But the sheriff's men were there, and they took Muff to St. Petersburg's little jail. And their Muff sat for 4 weeks and waited for his trial. And their Muff waited for his trial. Tom and Huck could not forget that night in the graveyard. They were very unhappy and very afraid. "What are we gonna do?" said Tom. "Muff Potter didn't kill the doctor. Injun Joe did. We saw him." "I know," Huck said. "But what can we do? We can't tell anyone. I'm afraid of Injun Joe. He's dangerous. And he's a killer. Do you want a knife in your back?" "Yes, I'm afraid of him too," Tom said. He thought for a minute. "I'm sorry for Muff Potter, but you're right, Huck. We can't tell anyone." 2. Sentences 1. What is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. A sentence must have a subject and a verb, but it may or may not have an object. A simple sentence, a statement, begins with capital letter and ends with a full stop. Subject plus verb plus object. 1. Bant and Santa are fighting. 2. The hedgehog curled up. 3. Gulabo is reading a book. 4. It is raining. 5. Dad cooked dinner. 6. I am flying a kite. 7. We are eating our breakfast. 8. They are washing the dishes. 9. The dentist is examining Susan's teeth. 10. The old couple have no children. 11. Jeet screamed. 12. Simpy is making a doll. 8. Picture dictionary page.